Okay, welcome back to Third and 23. I'm your host Alex, here to talk college football. Specifically, talking about the recapping Week 9 of the college football season, how I did on my picks predictions, how I did on my overall picks, how I did against the spread. Um, New to the channel, uh, I update my record real time while I'm doing this video. So what you'll see is the overall record is my overall record, right? Self-explanatory, how I did on straight up picks. And then my ATS, right? My against the spread record, how I've done pulling games against the spread. 19 and 18, over 50%. But, started out hot, had a little cold spell on back-to-back weeks, but have since done well. Coming into this past Saturday, I was 7-3 the last 2 weekends, and now we had ourselves a pretty good weekend against the spread, as we're gonna find out as we're gonna get into. All right, but anyway, so into it, we're gonna first start off with OU Kansas. Now, this was a game, you guys remember me saying I didn't want to do this game against the spread because I didn't trust OU to be able to cover that 9. As I went over in the game, I thought this was going to be a high-scoring game. Kansas, I went over Jason Bean, an explosive quarterback who can turn the ball over. They have running backs, Devin Neal, Daniel Highshaw. These guys, they got running backs who can run the rock. Kansas receivers aren't really dangerous, but with Jason Bean, he makes them dangerous. And then, they got a tight end in Mason Fairchild, who's also a pretty good player. OU, they're explosive offensively with Dylan Gabriel, who was in the Heisman race. Nick Anderson's really coming into his own at receiver. Jaleel Farouk still is a weapon there. Drake Stoops, always seems to get open. He seems like he's been there for 10 years. So coming into this, I was leaning, what I said is I was leaning towards Kansas with the +9 because the money was on the spread dropped from 10 to 9, and I understood it because of Kansas' explosive offense and because OU couldn't exploit Kansas' biggest weakness, run defense. Kansas can't stop anybody's run game. OU doesn't really have a run game, but even without a legit run game in this one, OU still was able to run the ball. Kansas can't stop the run at all. It doesn't matter who's running the rock. Tawee Walker for OU went for 149 in this game. As a team, they went for over 200 in this game. But it didn't matter, right? Didn't matter. This was a back and forth game where you saw Kansas actually blow opportunities to really kind of put the game out of reach or to have more points at different moments. Jason Bean had an interception in the fourth quarter. OU or KU muffed the punt, and gave OU a short field for a scoring opportunity. Right, so KU was making mistakes in this game, but at the end of the day, their offense made big plays. Jason Bean, I said he's an explosive quarterback. He didn't 15 for 32, 218. Now he hit some big passes, but it wasn't what I thought he was going to do throwing it. Also had two interceptions, but he also had 62 yards rushing and a crazy rushing touchdown for like 40 yards, something like that. Sprinted around the right side and just took off on everybody. I mean, apparently he's a track guy, and you could see that track speed. As a team, they ran for 225. I mean, Shaw and Neal were doing work, just running tough yards all game long. And OU on the other side, man, OU had 440 yards of offense, but man, they went 2 of 10 on third down. OU was hitting some big chunk plays, but they were not maintaining drives, keeping that KU offense off the field. Gabriel 14 and 19, 170 and a pick. That's not Heisman material, right? But I think they were trying to lean on the running game because they did run for 269, as I stated earlier. So, it's a smart strategy against KU's defense because they give it up. But, man, they could not make the critical plays defensively when they needed. They couldn't make the critical stops defensively when they needed them to make. And when they needed them to make it. And thing that in this game, OU, and this doesn't usually happen with OU, but 11 penalties for 100 yards. Man, can't have those kind of mistakes on the road. So KU, I didn't want to take KU straight up because Lance Leopold had never gotten a big win. I think he's done a great job at KU, but they just never gotten a big win at KU. And I wasn't going to be the one to call it. So I didn't want to call this game them getting the dub. So I had OU straight up, no money line. And, and it's a whiff. It's a whiff there. So I'm going to have to go ahead and take the L on that. That's a straight up L. 39-27. Let's move on to Clemson at NC State. Now here's our first against the spread game. I told you guys Clemson, to me, wasn't necessarily circling the drain, but because they are 2-2 in their last 4 coming into this game. They had played a bunch of games on the road. They really needed they want to come home. They need a break. They kind of feel like it felt like they were kind of running on fumes, right? Barely beating Wake, right? Losing to Miami and a true freshman quarterback, right? Now they got on the road to Raleigh, where they lost the last time they were in Raleigh, and NC State's got a solid defense, right? I just thought that this wasn't a great matchup for Clemson going against that defense, so I took NC State with the +10. Now, I said Clemson, though. I'll say Clemson to win straight up because, I thought this would go down. I thought this had potential to be an overtime game, right? The final score, you know what? Back to that Kansas game. One point I wanted to make, I forgot to mention. First, the final score in that KU game was 38-33 Kansas. And if you guys remember, I told you guys that over-under, 65.5. I said kind of high, but something to think about. I did the over. I don't know if you guys did. That last KU touchdown made it 38-33, 71, and you covered. So I've called every over-under I've talked about on this channel, which I don't talk about many of them. I've hit every single one. So just putting that out there. But anyway, so back to Clemson, right? So I said I thought this was going to go to OT, potentially to go to overtime. But I wanted to take NC State because of the defense. MJ Morris, the quarterback, I said he's erratic. I didn't trust him. I thought he could hit some plays downfield in this game, but I didn't trust him for 4 quarters, so I didn't want to pick NC State to win the game outright. I did want to take them with the 10 because of the defense. In this game, kind of right and wrong on both ends, right? So MJ Morris didn't hit anything downfield, absolutely nothing. 11 for 20, 138. He hit a 5-yard slant that Kevin Concepcion, true freshman who's been balling this year, by the way, if you guys haven't been paying attention, he took off and had a 72-yard touchdown on that play. He also had a 50-yard run in this game as well as they ran it to him. He's been making big plays all season. But, yeah, that's all MJ did this game. But what he didn't do, what he's prone to do, is turn the ball over. He didn't turn the ball over. And then I talked about the NC State defense. 2 picks that led to 14 points for the Wolfpack. And one of them was a pick 6, right? Cade Klubnik, man. I told you guys, I thought he regressed last week against Miami. And I like Cade Klubnik. I think he's going to be a good QB next season. Is when I think it's going to really click for him. Because I've seen improvements from him. But I thought he regressed against Miami. I thought going on the road against a tough defense wasn't the recipe to bounce back, which is what he needs. And he didn't bounce back. He looked bad. Threw the 2 picks, 33 for 50. Nah, that's not going to do it. Also to note, Will Shipley got hurt in this game in the second quarter. He never came back in. Clemson defense still playing well. It's going to suck for Clemson after this season because a lot of these guys are moving on to the NFL draft. And Clemson's had a good defensive year. They played good D this season, so they're going to have to replace a bunch of guys. But, yeah, they only gave up 9 first downs in this game, and they still lost. Final score, 24-17, Wolfpack. So, while I do whiff on the overall straight up because I took Clemson, when I said I thought it'd go to OT, I thought Clemson could win it in overtime, I do hit on our ATS. That's our 20th win, ATS. Are we going to get our 50th on my straight up? Is it going to come? It is going to come, obviously. So, on to Georgia, Florida. This was a game I told you guys was a really bad matchup for the Gators. I told you guys that I was surprised when this spread came out. I thought Georgia would have been favored by like 21. Um, I couldn't believe I saw this at 14 and a half, and it never moved. I opened up 14 and a half when I looked at the spreads. I look at the spreads on Monday, so I find all the opening lines. On Friday when I do my videos, this didn't move. This was still 14 and a half. So that was strange to me. I thought Florida's defense is full of babies, man. You know, the young guys on this defense, they're going to be a lot better next year, but they're young. They're not very good stopping the run. They're not great against the pass. If you have a really good passing attack, if you don't have a good passing attack, they're going to look pretty good. But this was a bad matchup. A Georgia team that's pretty much, I would say, elite at both running and passing. It was a bad matchup for them. Georgia was down 7-0 as Florida scored on the opening drive. Great scripted drive. But after that, Florida couldn't get anything going. You had fumble that set up a Georgia score. You had a fourth down stop in their own territory, which I thought was a good call going for it. I don't know. Some people don't like the play call. They tried a little trick play on 4th and inches. Didn't work. Set up another score for Georgia. Georgia ended up with like 486. You don't need to give them any help, right? I said that Carson Beck. I said this will be a Carson Beck game. I said Georgia's going to be able to run the ball. Dejan will go over 100 if you give him enough, give him the ball enough. I said that. But I said this is going to be a Carson Beck game. Because this is a game getting Ladd McConkey back that Florida doesn't put pressure on the quarterback. So he's going to be able to sit back there and he's going to be able to find guys open downfield. Carson Beck, 19 for 28, 315, and 2 touchdowns. Great game. They ran for 171 as well. Dejan didn't get the ball enough, so he didn't hit his 100, but he was juking, cooking. I mean, Dejan is a great running back. So, he did his thing. Ladd McConkey said that was big and coming back, 6 for 135 in this game, man. Guys were cooking, and Georgia got a lot of yak in this game, too, a lot of yak. So they kind of did whatever they want offensively. This game was 36-7 in the fourth quarter. You look at the stats, you're going to say Florida had 339 yards. But reality is, it was just 36-7 in the fourth quarter. Florida's last 2 drives, each went 75 yards. So 150 yards in the last 2 drives with 2 touchdowns. So, they got 2 scores and 150 yards at the end of the game when it's out of reach. That's kind of what happened there. The final in this one was 43-20. I told you guys I was laying the 14 and a half. I couldn't believe the spread was that low. I thought it'd be at 21. Final score again, 43-20. So this was an easy cover. I don't think Florida has anything should be upset or Florida fans should be upset on what to take from this game because I don't think they're outmatched and they have a young team, and that's really what happened in this game. So go ahead and update that, and this is our 50th. Now we got our 50th against our overall, and that's another ATS hit. 2-0 so far. Oregon, Utah. This is another ATS game. I told you guys I was going to lay the 6.5 with Oregon, and take Oregon. Now my reasoning was that I've been critical of the Utah quarterbacks all season. Bryson Barnes and earlier Nate Johnson. These guys can't play. They can't play. They're not Power 5 starters. They can't play at the Power 5 level to be starting quarterbacks. They're just not. These guys miss Cam Rising. Utah's been just crushed with injuries all season, really. And what they've the past couple weeks, I'm not going to say is they went to a gimmick, but they took their starting safety, Sione Vaki, who I called AKA Booby Miles, and they moved him to offense, put him at running back. I don't even know if he knows all the plays, but they're basically just handing it off to him or throwing it to him and letting him make plays. And he cooked Cal. He cooked USC. He was balling. Dan Lanning is not going. He sees that. He's got 2 weeks of that. He's not going to just let Sione Vaki do that. Sione Vaki in this game had 5 touches for 11 yards. He's not going to let him do it. So you're going to have Bryson Barnes with the Utah crop of receivers, which aren't very, Devon Vele is okay, I guess. These guys aren't going to really do work like that. You're going to have these guys. So you're relying on Utah's defense, which is outstanding. but against an elite offense, you could take a great college football defense, you put them against an elite college football offense, put them against that elite college football offense is going to make plays. They just are. This ain't the NFL, right? This ain't the 2000 Baltimore Ravens or something like that. So Bo Nix and those guys were going to do work. Landon Barton for Utes, inside linebacker, is out. So I told you guys it's going to make running the ball even easier for Oregon. And Oregon dominated this game from the jump. They dominated this game from the jump. Bucky at running back was really hard to handle this game. As a team, they ran for 140. Bo Nix, 24 for 31, 248, 2 touchdowns, was efficient. And the Oregon defense was all over the Utah offense. Only allowed 240 yards. Brian Barnes, man, 15 for 29, 136, and 2 picks. Not the USC defense he's going against here. Wasn't USC. So they didn't get the help they needed in this game from the running game. Sione Vaki and all these other guys running the ball. They couldn't really run the ball. And Oregon they jumped on them from the jump. The Ute crowd was into it, and they were out of it quick because this game was over early. Final score in this game was 35-6 Oregon. So yet again, we covered here. This is another easy cover. We're at win number 51 on our overall. We're at win number 2 on our ATS. 3-0 for the weekend. Moving on. Duke Louisville. This is another game that I did against the spread. Now this is a game that I damn near started laughing on camera this past Friday. I told you guys, if you guys watched the Friday video, you would have saw Louisville was a 4-point favorite, 4 or 4.5. I can't remember. And I thought that was a joke. I couldn't believe it because I thought Louisville would win this game by double digits. First, I thought Riley wouldn't play, right? Because he re-aggravated the ankle injury. He's not going to play after a week, I don't think. I think it's going to be Henry Beelan again. And I told you guys, and it's on camera so you guys can hear, I said I think Louisville can shut them out. That's what I told you guys. So, despite the fact the spread goes to 6.5, what, Louisville can't win 7-0? Yeah, right. So I told you guys I think Louisville can shut these guys out. They didn't start Henry Beelan like I thought. They did actually start Riley Leonard. But Riley Leonard clearly not 100%. I can't believe they put him out there. But I guess what they're saying is probably, 50 to 65% Riley Leonard is better than Henry Beelan at 100%. I would probably agree with that. But you're not doing yourself any favors, right? I mean, you're not letting Riley get healthy. Got other games to play. I mean, I probably would have sat him. Me personally, I would have sat him because you got other games to play, man. You're not going to win the national title, so what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You're not in that race, right? So Riley played. You could see he was clearly not 100% in the game. He went. Let me get these numbers real quick. He went 9 for 23, 121 in a pick. Not healthy. As a team, they only ran 50 yards. Had 200 yards only of offense, 2 for 12 on third down. Like, they couldn't do anything. I told you guys, Louisville's defense is active. They had 4 sacks. Completely shut this Duke team down. Tell you how bad this was. Duke crossed midfield only twice. And I think the furthest they made it was like the Louisville 48, I want to say. I mean, they were in no danger. They didn't even come close to the red zone. So, as on Louisville's side, Jack Plummer didn't really do anything. But Jawad Jordan, I told you guys, he did play. I said he might not play. He did play. Went for 230. He went for 160. As a team, they ran for 230. But he went for 160 and 2 touchdowns. He killed. Duke's defense was battling, but they're on the field all game because these guys can't move the ball. Final score, Louisville 23, Duke 0. Called the shutout. All right, so you heard it right here. I called the shutout. You guys can tune in to the Friday video. You can see it for yourself. But this was the easiest cover I've seen this season. I couldn't believe the spread was this low. I came in thinking that this was going to be in the double digits. There's no way like that was that low. And the fact that it opened at 4 points. Man, they were trying to give people free money. That was free money they handed out. So that puts us now, we hit NC State, Georgia, Oregon, and Louisville. 4-0 against the spread this week. All right. Moving on, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Now, this is a game that I did not do ATS. So I told you guys I was taking Ohio State straight up to win the game. There was going to be no question about that. I'm not going to take Braden Locke to beat Ohio State, who, if you guys remember, if you guys watched my preseason video, I picked Ohio State to win the national championship. I don't know if I still think they will, but I didn't think Wisconsin would win that game with a backup quarterback. So I said Braden Locke, he's got a little moxie to him, undersized quarterback with a decent arm. Wisconsin at home in Madison at night can be a tough place to play. I thought there'd be a lot of juice in the stadium, and there was. There was a lot of juice in the stadium. The game was close. Game was competitive. Braden Locke, he 18 for 39, 165 and a touchdown. He didn't really do it, and I didn't think he would. I told you guys on Friday, I said Travion Henderson is finally back, and I said I think this is going to be a show-out game for him because it's on national TV. He's finally back. I thought he was going to have a big game. Travion Henderson, what did he go for? 160. Travion took over. He went for 160. Marvin Harrison Jr., 6 for 123 and 2 touchdowns. He's doing his thing. He should be in New York for the Heisman ceremony, so I hope he is. I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman. I don't know if I would pick him to win the Heisman. I think he's the best player in America, so, sometimes the Heisman doesn't go to the best player in America, right? But I think he's the best player in America. I think he should be the number 1 pick of the draft. But he should at the bare minimum, be in the Heisman ceremony. In Kyle McCord in this game, would say didn't look too hot. 17, 26, 226, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Man, he threw a pick. He threw a pick in the end zone. So first off, that takes points off the board. But worse than that, man, that pick was the most trash thing you might have seen this weekend, right? I don't know what in the hell he was looking at. Wasn't close. The receiver wasn't close to open. There was like 3 badgers there. I don't know why he threw that ball. He's rolling out to the right, so he can only throw it that way. So throw it out of bounds, right? So I don't know what that was about. He threw another pick at the end of the first half that set up Wisconsin to get a field goal. So that got 3 points from Wisconsin. But, the game kind of went, I guess you could say, how I thought it was going to go, which is why I didn't want to lay the 14.5, because what I told you guys is I was worried about 31-17 or 34-17. Some backdoor nonsense kind of happened there, and you lose out. So there was no backdoor cover in this game. It was a 17-10 game for a good way, and then in the fourth quarter, Ohio State finally put it away to go up 24-10, and that's your final score. So once it's 24-10, late fourth, unless you're going to get a defensive score, if you lay the 14.5, you're out of luck, right? So odds makers will hit this one basically on the head with the 14.5, but it didn't hurt us here at 3rd and 23 because we did not lay that 14.5. I didn't want to lay 14.5 on the road in Wisconsin. So that's another straight up win that we have there, though, right? Colorado, UCLA. It's another game that I did not do against the spread. I said 16.5, man. I thought it was. So this was a game that I say, I guess you could say I didn't really have my finger on the pulse of this game, if you want to phrase it that way. I said this. I thought this was going to be a higher scoring game. I said UCLA, I could see winning like 42-24. Something close to that 16.5 where you could get kind of burned late. So I didn't want to lay that 16.5. 42-24, 41-24, somewhere around there. I thought UCLA would win. I thought UCLA had a really good defense that would be able to completely erase Colorado's running game, which I stated. But I like Shedeur. I like Shedor's passing ability. I thought that they could win some battles against the UCLA DBs to where they would score some. But I thought Ethan Garbers would look sharp passing the ball. They'd be able to run the ball with Carson Steele, and they would kind of move it at will and score a bunch of points. Like I said, I thought they'd get a 40-burger on the board. That's not what happened in this game. UCLA won this game 28-16, but this game was kind of a battle, man. This was a battle. It was a really sluggish start by UCLA. And in the first half, there was a sequence, right? 4 consecutive UCLA drives ended like this: fumble, pick, missed field goal, fumble. So 4 drives and like that. Colorado turned all 4 of those drives into 0 points. So sluggish by UCLA because they had opportunities to put points on the board, but they're self-inflicted wounds here, right? And then though the pick was a hell of a pick, I'm not gonna call that one self-inflicted. Ethan Garbers just got baited into that one. That was a great pick by Travis Hunter. But then Colorado not being able to even move the ball really and turn those into anything. And why can't they do that? Because while I like Shedeur, man, that offensive line for Colorado is going to get him killed. That old line is going to get him killed, man. He under constant pressure. I think what they have, yeah, UCLA has 7 sacks, and that's sacks. Imagine all the times he got hit and hurried and rushed out the pocket and everything. Nothing. Colorado running game, 25 yards, man. He's not getting any help. So this game was kind of a battle, I'll say. But the final score was 28-16. UCLA scored late to make it 28-9. So if you're thinking you're going to cover, didn't, because Colorado, late fourth quarter, went on a drive, aided by a big pass interference call that was correctly called, and they were finally able to put the ball in the end zone, make it 28-16, and that's your final. So this was one that we stayed away from. Didn't like it because it was too close to what I thought the score was going to be. As far as a 17-point margin, but we still hit on the straight up. So it's another straight up win. And now finally, this was our last ATS game. Because I told you guys, I said disclaimer, right? I said if no Fafita's starting for Arizona, I'm taking Arizona money line. I said, if it's Jaden DeLora, which is a mistake, I said, I'll take Oregon State. I won't lay the 3. I'll just do it as a straight-up pick, right? Because I told you guys, I think this is going to be a 3-point game one way or the other. I said, if Jaden DeLora starts this game, I think he will throw a pick to give Oregon State that 3-point win. And if Noah Fafita starts this game, I said Noah Fafita is the kind of quarterback who will go on a drive to lead for that 3-point win, that field goal to win the game. Man, that's damn near what happened in this. It didn't go Noah Fafita, leading the drive in a tie ball game, but still, right? So Noah Fafita did start. This was a hell of a game. This was a great game. Most of y'all probably didn't watch this. This game came on at 10:30 at night at East Coast time, so it was a late game. But both teams looked solid. Both teams looked like good teams. Fafita, 25 for 32, 275, 3 touchdowns and a pick. They got him on. They ran it pretty decently too. They just didn't run it a lot. They ran for like 115, but they didn't run it a lot in this game. It was more on Fafita. And also the fact that Oregon State was moving the ball as well on offense, so they had a lot of possession as well. Oregon State had over 400 yards in this game. But I told you guys, Arizona's got a good defense that y'all don't know about, man. Arizona has played well against every quarterback they played against, except if you want to say Michael Penix, because Michael Penix had 360, but he had 0 touchdowns in that game. DJU, 16 for 30, 218, 2 touchdowns. That's not going to get it done. Oregon State had some good running in this game. Oregon State's got 2 backs with Fenwick and Martinez. But Arizona's just a tougher team. I told you guys also on Friday, if you'd been paying attention, Oregon State has actually not been that great stopping the run. Now, Arizona didn't run it at a high clip or for a high yardage in this game because they were throwing it more with Fafita, but they ran it a good yard per carry. And then late in the game, fourth quarter, man, they couldn't stop them on the ground, man. They couldn't stop Jonah Coleman. They couldn't stop Wiley. They couldn't stop these guys on the ground, and these guys were just punishing them. It was 20-17. And Arizona just went on a punishing late game drive that ended with a touchdown. Boom, 27-17. There was like 1 pass thrown on that drive, I think, 1 or 2 maybe. And then Oregon State got the ball back late. They did go on a drive, score to make it 27-24, but that was pretty much the end of the game. So this game, I called it, right? I said this game's gonna be decided by 3, and if it's for FIDA, I'm taking AZ by 3. Now they didn't do it for a walk off, but 3 is 3. So again, I hit the margin on this one as well. I hit this Arizona money line. Picked the home dog to not cover but win straight up. So let's go ahead and update our record. So that is a straight up hit, but also that is another ATS hit. So there it is. Not since I started out the year, when I started out 3-0, if you've been watching the channel since back then. Started out 3-0. I got myself a 5-0 ATS weekend. Not easy to do, but that puts us 12-3 now the last 3 weeks. So we got some momentum going. We're gonna see if we can keep this going next week. So that's basically kind of wraps up how these games. Oh, man, my bad, guys. Let me go back one game. I completely missed Tennessee, Kentucky. Now, Tennessee, Kentucky, just to give you a quick recap, this was not an ATS game that I did. And this is when I left meat on the bone, because I told you guys, I said, I'm leaning Tennessee cover, but I didn't want to do it because Kentucky had already lost a home night game to Missouri. I said historically, Kentucky doesn't win games coming out of the bye. I thought Tennessee, as you see with the football by the name, I still thought Tennessee would win this game, but I wasn't confident they would cover the 4. I was leaning that way, but I was like, let's play it safe. We're going to take Tennessee just straight up. And this game, this is a great game, actually. There was a lot of great games this weekend. There was big plays by both sides. I told you guys in the bye week, I said, even though Kentucky doesn't win games coming out of the bye historically, their passing game had been so bad this year that you had to think that they were working on things during the bye week, right? Working on passing, right? The receiver Leary connections got to improve, because I thought before the season came in, I thought Berrien Brown, Tavion Robinson, Dane Key, I thought Kentucky had a good group of receivers. These dudes been dropping a lot of passes all year. I'm thinking, man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe these guys aren't that good. This game, you know, maybe they for a game, at least for a game, we'll say they kind of look back to what I thought they would look like, at least on the receivers did. But I'll give it up to Leary, even though I've never thought he was a good QB, man. He was dropping dimes in this game. 28 for 39, 370, and 2 touchdowns. Dane Key had over 100 in this game, too. So he was dropping dimes. Tennessee, I thought would be able to run the ball well. They ran for 250, you know. And then it doesn't help that Joe Milton is 18 for 21, right? He didn't have to throw for big yards, 228. There was only like 2 downfield passes that he really completed. One was for a touchdown. But still, when you got that kind of efficiency and you run for 250, it'd be hard to stop. But this was a good game. This is a good game. But this is how this game got lost too. That you guys, if you watch the game, maybe you didn't catch, or you know, maybe out there in the ether, they're not going to talk about this. This game was 10 minutes left. Tennessee is winning 26-24. Kentucky had gone downfield. They just had a really good drive, and they stall out in the red zone. They kick a shortish field goal, somewhere in the 30s, I thought it was. But they kick a field goal, and they miss. That was an opportunity to take the lead. Can't do that in the fourth quarter. Tennessee, they got a drop. They're trying to go. They have 2nd and 10. Tennessee throws a shovel pass. Deion Walker blows it up. Hits the running back. Didn't wrap up, man. Didn't bring his arms. So the running back bounces off of Deion Walker, sprints left, gets out, and gets the 10 yards and the first down. It was 2nd and 10. Y'all thinking, man, it was 2nd and 10. Man, that would have made it 3rd and probably like 14. 3rd and 14. So you got a shot to get a 3 and out. Because 3rd and 14 is not easy to get, right? And Joe Milton isn't exactly, you know, he's on this game. He's not exactly a lock to complete a 3rd and 14 pass for the first down. So could have got the ball back. They didn't, because they didn't wrap. That drive continues. Tennessee ends up scoring a touchdown on that drive and put the game away 33-24. And then the final on this one, Kentucky did go downfield later. make it 33-27. But that was your final. So if you did lay the 4, you did cover. We got to go ahead and update our straight up record though, because we did call Tennessee straight up. But I left some meat on the bone with that one, because instead of a 5-0 week, could have had a 6-0. I was leaning hard Tennessee, but didn't pull the trigger. But anyway, so now that's all good. That recap's done. This recap video was done. If you like the content and if you follow the picks and enjoy your weekend with that 5-0 game as you would have done this past Saturday. And if you if you like the content, like, follow, subscribe, all of that. You're gonna see my YouTube handle up here in a few seconds. Take care.